Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything rolls around £50,000. My name's Such.
My name's James, and you nearly cocked up the intro last time.
I nearly did. I nearly did.
How did it finish, sir?
William McNair.
Congratulations.
William, you done fucked up, mate. He fucked up. Because had I been in William's shoes, listen, then I don't know if actually William is a married man or not, but had I been in this year in William's shoes, you know what happened on Sunday evening after all the points had been tallied up?
You wouldn't have got married?
I would have told my wife that I came second in SkyFF and show her that I was second and that we got $5,000 or whatever else. But he's named his first team and his second team the same. So she would know that you came first as well. So you're now in a situation where you can't hide the fact that you got the $50,000 by just showing her the 5. Name your second team something different, kids, just in case you come first and second.
Really?
Yeah, I want to keep the $50,000 away from the missus, mate. Obviously, how else are you going to do that? You can't name your team the same.
Yeah, I don't think you and I would be able to hide that. Well, I reckon you probably could. It could be all over social media. Sujan Shah wins Sky Fantasy Football and hide it from your missus. I don't think I can. No. She stalks me.
What are the chances, James, of first and second? Like, you know, people keep their teams quite close, so it can happen, but it's still a hell of an achievement and well done, but because it's fantastic.
Wasn't Paul?
He was
had two
high
teams
up there.
Right up there towards the end.
Towards the
well.
end, and then obviously you kind of hedge your bets, right? So you go one way with one and one way with the other and hope that one stands there. He's had 2 that have stood the test of it.
Brilliant.
And 30 plus points clear at the end as well. So plenty of wiggle room.
Brilliant achievement.
Yeah. Well done, William.
Well done to Will.
And well done to me, because I've hit my goal of finishing inside the top 3,000.
Simon Ingram 3rd. That's one of our patrons. Luke Gertie 4th. Samuel Thacker 5th. Our friend Joe Finley Badder 6th. Adam English, friend of the show. Jack McMillan, David Maguire, and Simon's other team 3rd and 10th, right?
Nice.
So, look, there's loads of ways
Jack
to
Bones
play.
Up there.
Of course, Jack is up there.
He was 12th, wasn't he? 13th.
There's loads of ways to play the second team. The last couple of years would suggest that maybe the best way to do it is just to do exactly the same with your second team and then diversify later on in the season. I've tried this last couple of years of this one player per team, which is a nice, fun way to do it, but it's not come close to win it. He's done all right. Like I finished 888th with the second team. He's not done terrible, but he's not getting anywhere near to winning it. That's got to be absolutely perfect on that format, I think, to do it. So it might be that I join these guys next year and go, right, first, second teams are going to be the same. This might give me the best chance of trying to win it, to do exactly that, diversify towards the end.
Cool. Well, when we get to the questions that we've had in on Twitter, James, there's going to be learnings and stuff like that, and that's another topic we can raise. I ended up on 83 points for the final week and just inside the top 3K. Not a great season. Just was like walking through treacle, really. Was at 5K for ages, then between 2 and 3K for the majority of the final 10, 12 game weeks, really, or match weeks. The final day was a flop. I captained one of 2 players that could have been my worst possible captain choices. Bar Gordon obviously wasn't playing. Diaz and Gakpo were my 2 attacking Liverpool players that I had from the Monday night game against Villa. I decided to go Diaz for the simple reason that I went Gakpo in FPL. So I thought, let me mix it up and go different.
Have you seen the Luis Diaz miss when he hits the bar?
Yeah. But it doesn't help me because Diaz and Gakpo both scored 2 points. Bar Gordon, who didn't play, everybody else in my team scored more. I had Petrovic in goal. Van Dijk and Trent, 11 and 7 respectively. Gvardiol with 7. Rodri, 13. I should have put it on Rodri, just for old time's sake, just for the love of it. Sonny scored. Bernardo Silva got me points. Isak got me points. 16 off him. And it was Diaz and Gakpo, 2 each. And it was one of them that I captained. So, done. That's all I can say is done. At least I used all my transfers. And I missed less than 5 deadlines this year. I think I probably missed 4, maybe 4 or 5 max. So we're making progress. And that's it. Next year's definitely going to be even harder. Next year's going to be even harder.
The games are getting harder. It's really simplistic, this. Games are getting harder because it's not just Sky, it's other fantasy football formats. People are becoming so much more aware. There's so many more uses. There's obviously a clear analytics crowd getting involved in the Sky Fantasy football space now as well. And I'm pretty sure we'll see. I mean, I don't know Will to know if he's kind of the analytics nature, if he's using data or if he's just a very skilled player at picking personnel. But certainly you're going to get someone comes through and wins Sky in the near future that is going to be based heavy off analytics. Absolutely.
I just meant because I need to use a VPN and log in from a different place. It's going to get more difficult for me for that. Too. But I get what you're saying. How did it finish for you?
88 points final day. Carried by a few. So Isak 16 points, Foden 20, Sonny 7, Pedro Porro's 16 was handy, although Romero would have been a better choice when I made that transfer. Andre Onana's clean sheet was a nice surprise at the weekend. Little bits for Saliba, Palmer, Salah. Blanks for Gusto, Bruno Fernandes, and the captain as well, Erling Haaland. So I'll take 88 on a single day with a captain blank. It meant that I finished in 56th place on 3,629 points. 22 points shy of 30th, which is Liam Dorian. Liam obviously won the game a few years ago. I think Liam's the only one in the Content Creator League to finish above me, so I'll take that.
Okay.
I beat Ian Parrin by 1 point. That felt like the second biggest W of my Sunday. The first being obviously Manchester City winning, not Tottenham winning.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that 56th. It's a very, very good season, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
you're nowhere but first in this, is how it always feels.
You're literally 3 or 4 decisions away from it working out to being right up there. So, yeah, well done. It's a good season. Shows some consistency now. You've got 30-something in there. You've got 50-something in there. Nice. You just keep building consistency.
It's nice after last year was a shit show for me, completely in this. So
Yeah. I did a James this year. That's what I did.
I feel like I've learned things as well.
Good. Well, there's questions on the internet about what we have learned, James. So what do you want to do? Do you want to cover off some of the last little bits of tier points and things that we have had? And then we will get straight into it.
It will give us a few discussion points. And I want to highlight a few players that performed particularly well in the run-in who perhaps we might not have considered as well. So just cover off last Wednesday's games. Passing tiers for Igor Julio, Adam Webster and Pascal Gross. Obviously, Lewis Dunk went off injured at half-time on 33 passes. Trevor Chalobah with passing tier and tackle tier. Cole Palmer with shot tier to go with his goal. No passing tiers in the Manchester United-Newcastle game. Save tier 2 for Onana and Dubravka. Shot tiers for Diallo and Hall. Tackle tier for Bruno Guimaraes. Also a shot tier for substitute Joel Linton as well in that one from the games on Sunday. Passing tier for Saliba, White and Thomas Partey. Gabriel was on track. 40 passes completed, went off at 59 minutes. Young and Onana with a tackle tier for Everton. Another save tier as expected for Jordan Pickford. The only player to hit a passing tier in the Brentford-Newcastle matchup was Brentford's Christian Norgard. We've normally associated as being a good one for the tackles. Isak and Murphy in shots. Hall in tackles again. Joel Linton also. Ivan Toney with a shot tier. Both goalkeepers saved here. Lewis Hall might be an interesting one if we look at the start of next year, and it looks like he might become Newcastle's left back. It's just a name. Oh, who's not under consideration that might become one next year? That's a name maybe to keep an eye on. I think Johan Visser of Brentford's had a really good run. It might be another name to keep an eye on, particularly if Toney goes. Mm-hmm. Be really nicely priced. Because there'll be a lot of attention on Bumo under that circumstance. For the Brighton Manchester United game, Julio, Webster and Gross tier 2 passing. Barco, Moda, Balaba and Welbeck all in the tackles. Casemiro 6 tackles 1. It's also United's highest for passes with 52 in the game as well.
At centre-back.
He finished in midfield, but he played the first hour or so at centre-back because Raphael Varane came on later in the game. Right. From Burnley, Nottingham Forest, Obviously, plenty of passing tiers coming up for Bayern Munich players, I should imagine. Sanderberg, 125 passes completed for Burnley against Nottingham Forest. Midfield partner Josh Cullen, 74, also hit a shot here. O'Shea and Esteve also in the passing. Montiel and Danilo in the tackles. Chris Wood, shots here for Forest. From Chelsea Bournemouth, no players hit passing tier. Moises Caicedo and Mark Cucurella in the tackles. Petrovic in the saves. Moises Caicedo quite quietly has been beginning to pick things up. I think it's another one that might be worth keeping an eye on next year. Could well have a bit of a price dip, possibly. Might be one that comes back in as a potential all-rounder, not shot tiers, but passes and tackles. They've been on the rise a little bit last couple of months with him. It's one to keep an eye on.
Anything to do with Enzo not being there?
There is a possible case for that, yeah, as we've discussed on other shows.
Yeah.
From Bournemouth, Dango Otaro was a substitute, hit shot tier, Senasai and Christie in the tackles. For Palace against Villa, shot tier for Eze, Elise and Mateta. Mateta on absolute fire, 100 points in Sky Fantasy Football since the March international break.
Monster.
How many players do you think got more?
None.
One.
Cole Palmer.
Jockey Manderson, passing tier achieved as well. Tier 2, 72 passes completed. I presume he's going to start next season as the central player in Palace's back three, and that should bring him back onto our radar, I think. Also, Daniel Munoz, who didn't pick up anything in this game from a tier perspective, that did get an assist, is one that's capable of getting the tackles, and obviously the attacking returns will be another one. There's a number of Palace players to keep an eye on, I think, with the price, and Adam Wharton's actually another one. He snuck into tier 1 passing here with 61. Longley and Carlos did hit passing tier 1 for Villa. Luca Dean in the tackles, Musa Diaby in the shots. It was a quiet end to the season for Ollie Watkins owners. For Liverpool against Wolves, tier 2 passing the most for Andy Robertson, 84 passes completed. Virgil van Dijk, Jarrell Quance only tier 1, despite Wolves playing a lengthy amount of this game. Liverpool playing a lengthy amount of this game with 10 men. Wataru Endo and Harvey Elliott also in the passing. Alexis McAllister not, though. It was on 39 passes with 20 minutes to go when he was replaced. 5 shots on target for Mo Salah. Jose Sarr made 11 saves, Suj. They only get tier 2 saves for that, though. And there were 3 Wolves players to hit tackles. Rayan Ait Nouri and Mario Lamina, tier 1. And who hit tier 2, Suj?
Joao Gomez.
Yeah, 6 tackles, 1. When you look across the season, it's just a mad consistency in there. We've never really...
It's Paulinho from last year, is Gomez this year.
We've never spoke about him. It's easy to just to say we've never thought about buying him because we didn't need to.
Yep.
He's one of the players I'm most interested to see price on next year. His actual tackles 1 per 90 is slightly better than Paulinho.
From the year before or from this season?
From this season.
Okay.
I think Paulinho per 90 is 2.5 tackles 1 per game. Joao Gomez 2.52. That's what I saw on FB Ref. So you're putting him in there at a category to compare to Paulinho.
Mm-hmm.
And Paulinho is the monster of ball winning here in this league, as he showed again at the weekend with his 2 tackles 1 at Luton for no tiers. Fulham players in tackle tier was Robinson and Tete. Raul Jimenez with a shot tier.
Mm-hmm.
Colton Morris tackle tier and shot tier. From Manchester City West Ham, 9 saves from Alphonso Areola. Mohamed Kudus, 2 shots on target, including 1 stunning overhead kick. Vladimir Soufal picked up a tackle tier. Every Manchester City player returned, except for 3. Ortega conceded. Ruben Diaz, 56 passes completed. Erling Haaland, not even a single shot on target. Vardiol, tier 1 passing, tier 2 tackles. Akanji, Walker, tier 2 passing. Rodri, shot tier 1 to go with his 117 passes completed. Jeremy Doku, shot tier and tier 2 tackles. Foden, tier 2 shots and tier 2 passing. So too Kevin De Bruyne. Bernardo Silva, also tier 2 passing.
Do you think Doku and Sofal had each other in their Sky teams? Because he's playing left wing and he's playing right back, and one's got 5 tackles and one's got 5 tackles. They're just tackling each other till they got to tier 2.
Possibly tells you something about Doku. Willing, hard worker, rapid, unpredictable.
Gives the ball away, has to tackle to win it back.
I mean, he's assisted brilliantly for Foden's second goal, but still no open play assist for Erling Haaland all season. Wes Foderingham made 6 passes for Sheffield United.
Saves.
Did I say shots?
Passes.
I mean, completed 12, which is one of Sheffield United's better numbers, actually. Alston Trusty.
Ironically.
Alston Trusty completed 24.
Yeah.
Which is less than
by the defenders, he completed as many passes as every other outfield player.
Which is less than Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who came on with 24 minutes to go. And actually, Jonny Johnson and Kulusevski were less than that. Tier 1 passing for James Maddison and also Mickey van der Ven, who played left back again. The 2 centre-backs, Christian Romero, joined by Radu Dragusin this time. Tier 2 passing. It was a shot tier 4, Pedro Porro and Heung-min Son. And shot tier 2 for Dejan Kulusevski, who scored twice, not for the first time in game week 38. That's your final data wrap of the season, Suj.
Cool. Good. Well, let's get into the questions then, because it's all about reviewing the season. I'll read out the shout-outs as well, because a few people that are just, no question, but thanks for the content, like Andy from Let's Talk FPL. No problem, Andy. I hope you're enjoying your Sky journey, because I know he's relatively new to the game, but getting stuck into it. FPL Fish, what key things have you learned to carry over next season? I personally carried too many transfers over to the last 2 weeks and went into the last game with 2 left. I think I didn't get the best gains from maybe 4 or 5 of my last 8 or 9 transfers.
Yeah, the way it landed this year, there wasn't
too many too late as well.
Too much reason, I don't think, for people to be having transfers left on the final day.
Yep.
With Man United having 3-for-1s at the end, even though it was difficult games, they've actually ended up winning 2 of the games, so it wasn't that bad. And there is even a clean sheet in there if you went for, say, Onana, for example. So that would be a learning, but it doesn't mean it's going to be like that next year.
Well, fewer doubles and fewer double game weeks and rearranged fixtures means that we're going to have to try and find maybe 2-for-1s rather than, or 2-for-0s rather than 3-for-1s and 4-for-1s.
Parts with games, little things like games being postponed for the Carabao Cup final are still going to create spaces somewhere where teams are going to have some big gains. So you still don't want to be like blowing over half your transfers in the first half of the season. But will the gains be quite as obvious towards the end of the season? No. But in any case, it still often works out so much that when the actual games are selected, matters so much, right? And that's going to come down to the TV companies quite a lot. We can expect maybe not so much next year, but perhaps the year after, obviously, like more single game days. It's going to be more Friday games and stuff like that. So the game will evolve, and that's going to make it a little bit different next year. With less. We might have in this final midweek no Premier League fixtures, for example. That is a possibility.
Ian Parent says, thanks for all the content throughout the year. Thanks for all your help, Ian, when you've stepped in when I've not been here. Looking forward to next season with neither club World Cup involvement nor FA Cup quarter-final weekend postponed games to be rearranged. Will the Tortoises need to look for a different edge instead of the usual fixture gains?
What you might get next year is, because people will largely be aware of less at the end, is people trying to hit it harder at the start. So it might still play to be on a similar
strategy path.
Yeah. There's still things like, I use Mateta as the example, right? There's not many will have had him. Not many. And despite, what was he, 6.7, second highest scoring player across since the March international break. And there's always players we get to at this point and we go, oh God, they hit great form at the end and never got there. And I think there'll still be elements of that. You've got to hit the right ones. We'd said to him as like an example to maybe help you get like Salah back or something like that, but I don't think too many went there. I think a lot when Palace had the single game day, most went into Eze if they went there, and there was little bits of Elise. Eze's done really well this weekend. Be key to see if those players stay or not next season. But I wouldn't, if I was Ian, I'm sure he won't change strategy too much. He'll still be thinking quite conservative early on, I think.
Yep. What's your thoughts on captaincy for next season? In terms of, there's a lot of auto-capping, just Haaland or Salah or even Saliba or the Arsenal defenders or what have you. There weren't many clean sheets other than Arsenal's. Captain defenders, there wasn't as many clean sheets, but there was tier points in terms of passing that's quite predictable. Do you think it'll be similar for captaincy next year, where it's a small pool of players that will give us the captaincy? Or do you think there could be gains to be had?
As ever, players will develop who we're not even thinking about now will become assets next year. Cole Palmer's not going to be 6.5. It's probably going to be more like 10.5, I should imagine. That's going to change the landscape in terms of what you want. Foden's going to get a bump. Watkins and Isak are going to get bumps. These Palace guys are going to get bumps. In terms of captaincy, I'd tell you one thing I have got in my head at the moment, and it's completely dependent on the pricing. But you look again that period since the March international break. Rodri's got more points than Haaland. He's got 80 for Rodri compared to 76 for Haaland. Now factor in, Haaland's got a 4-goal return in one game in there.
Yeah, so the consistency is mad.
You'll get hurt on that, don't get me wrong, if you didn't own him at that point. But actually, when you spread it, there's not much between them. And there never normally is. And I just wonder next year if there's enough other good forward options like, Watkins, Isak, if Tottenham or Arsenal invest in a new forward, perhaps someone like Christopher Nkunku might come back to the table. Thinking about going without the big man up front. But Rodri's also going to get a price. I think they finished 3 points apart overall, I want to say, maybe. Well,
Craig Kemp's got the next question, James. Craig from Man On. I hope you're training, mate. Get your greens in and get your sleep in because he's playing on Sunday, isn't he?
He will be.
What is a fair price for
Rodri
next season? Feels like he's a serious asset still at, guess the price he's written down. You just mentioned it.
What's Craig mentioned?
10.5. No, you just said Cole Palmer will be 10.5. He suggested 10.5 for Rodri, ironically.
There's a case,
and he'd still be an asset at 10.5, right?
Rodri's such an interesting case because there's a case to say he should be the highest priced midfielder in this.
He's not top point scorer because of Cole Palmer, but generally he's always in and around it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't argue with you. I don't know what...
with Rodri what you've got in terms of the consistency. What we can't know is, in truthfulness, whether he's going to be able to replicate the goals and assists return. We have to acknowledge that that's up this year. Right? It's up. Yeah. Is that sustainable? I don't know, but what I do know is those passing numbers ain't going to change. Mm-hmm. He's still basically starting on 5 points nearly every game. When you look through his returns for the season, it's like a dream just watching it. And, I've captained Haaland at the weekend. So, yeah, sure, I captained Haaland for the Hall against Wolves. Great. I've also captained him against Wolves. Nothing. I captained him against Tottenham. Nice return. I captained him against Fulham. Nothing. Meanwhile, in the middle, Rodri's just going 7, 7, 7, 7. He's not actually doing a lot different. No. He's just catching up.
Plus 10s and 12s are in there from him as well. Yeah.
Of course there is. But there's a case to say he shouldn't be the highest priced midfielder because A, the goals returns you don't know if it's sustainable, and B, it's still default on a captaincy to go Haaland. I think the game, listen, it will help with not having Cole Palmer's at 6.5 this year, which is no one's fault. That was the right pricing. No one could have foreseen what would happen. But you want a position where it's not easy, I think, to have Rodri and Haaland next year. That's where I say the same every year. Put us in a position to make this game difficult.
Yep.
This year it's become, because of people like Cole Palmer, again, it's no one's fault, that someone like that emerged and was so good, there was no choice to make. It cut off every enabling midfielder, basically. It wasn't necessary. Plus, you had other good players who were at reasonable prices to get, your Foden's, etc. Arsenal defensive players like Saliba at 9 and stuff, they're going to get a high, can't they?
Tom, FF Scout Tom, how quickly does Sky pay out on the prize leagues? I wouldn't know, mate. Never won one.
Don't know the answer.
It wouldn't know. Never won one.
It's normally within a couple of weeks, I think. It might even say in their rules. I'm not sure.
I'm sure the big money takes a bit longer. But
Tom's asking because he's won a couple of the cash mini leagues I put out. So well done,
lovely
mate.
Jubbly. Well done, Tom. Paul, Sky player and FPL. Just no question, but thanks for quality season. Always grateful for your support, Paul. So thank you.
If you enjoy these pods, you should always remember that Paul is a huge reason why we play this game.
Correct. When he used Sky to conquer FPL and did really well, was he top like 200 or 300?
49th or something?
In the end, yeah. Wow. And then that's where we dipped into it.
That's FPL, by the way, not Sky.
Yeah. But he was using Sky rules framework to manage his FPL, to give him less decisions to make. Interesting. Sean JG, I already don't like this guy, mate. No question. I just wanted to say thank you. I tried Sky for the first time after hearing you talk about it in pre-season pod and have loved it. Here's where it gets worse. I finished 20th overall, and like yourself, I now prefer it to FPL. Oh, first timer at 20th.
Every year, man. Every year.
To be honest, like, smashed it. Well done. Most importantly, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a fantasy game. All of these games are designed to give us happiness, enjoyment, fun, all of the positive things mentally, none of the negative. And if it's done that, then I'm super happy, mate. Thanks for the great content. Keep up the great work. 100% will be. So, yeah, and well done, Sean, because it's small margins from that to taking home the money. Dave Hannigan. There'll be a number of existing Premiership teams with new managers next season. Would that affect you choosing players from that club at the start of the season, given team selections, positions, and style of play may change?
It depends on a number of factors, right? First one being fixtures.
Yeah.
Would be the biggest one. Also, what we see in pre-season. If I look at someone like Moises Caicedo's improvement, if he shows that he's in the team regularly in pre-season and playing well, I would consider that sort of thing. Wouldn't necessarily be put off by the fact Chelsea are changing manager. Better example would perhaps be like if Enzo Maresca takes the Chelsea job, that would put me right off Leicester assets. Right off. Whereas I think I discussed this around Lego a couple of weeks ago, like if Vestergaard did stay, he would pick up passing tiers. Harry Winks will pick up passing tiers next year, probably be quite cheap. But under a different structure of manager, that could be completely different at Leicester. So with Leicester, the fact that they'd be changing league and changing manager, you'd be right put off that, I think.
And even if Chelsea nicked Ipswich manager Kieran McKenna, you'd not want any Ipswich assets maybe, or...
Yeah. I mean, the two teams that have definitively come up, there's both massive speculation about their managers at the moment. It's really difficult to call what's going to happen there. I would suspect if those two managers stay, Leicester will be of more interest to us than Ipswich.
Yeah, I mean, the likes of Liverpool, they're still, the quality of the players is still right up there. So whether the managers changed, quite often they'll get through and get results and you'll get points just because the players are so good.
You're not going to, if Salah's got Ipswich at home opening day, like on a Friday night, probably want to cover that off. I don't think you're going to be put off because it's not Jurgen Klopp managing the team, right?
No. Even like, if you look at, like you mentioned Glasner at Palace. Now, he's come in relatively recently, so he's a newish manager, but straight away, now that we've seen with the back three, you put some of their assets on the table as potential passing tier. Whereas the opposite, like take Lopetegui's coming in at West Ham, he likes a back three, but West Ham defenders were never assets that we'd potentially look at anyway. So moving to a back three, I don't think makes them any more attractive because you're still going to go to Bowen. If you're going to go a West Ham asset, you're highly likely to go somewhere like that. So for that change of manager, for example, I don't think it puts any players on the table anymore. Whereas Glasner's has kind of put some assets on the table.
Like, you know, looking at things like Joachim Andersen again, for example, he's a player that we'd have looked at previously. It's shown consistency over a good little spell for them. We don't know if it's sustainable, right? We have to remember that with Palace.
Yep. FPL Gerald, hoping to play next year. How many points should I be looking to get from a transfer, or how many gains do I need to get? Neither nor. It's a very, very difficult question to answer. Like 10 points for a transfer, you'd want to gain, but there's so many other variables. That's a difficult one to answer.
For me, I'd normally be looking at more than that. I think sort of 15, but I'm then judging it over probably say a 2-game period or so. So it really depends how long you're judging it over, right? You might, let's take an example. Let's say next year we've got Mavadidi at Leicester becomes like the new Cole Palmer and is banging it in every week all of a sudden. When you judge the value of that transfer, does it matter? You might go, this guy's going in, staying for the rest of the season. So what are you going to do? You're going to judge that over 6 months, or does it matter? I don't think you always need to specifically judge it. Like, I don't necessarily look back. I'm looking for the immediate gain quite quickly, whether it's a short-term decision or a long-term. Because if it's a long-term as well, you say, well, maybe I should have waited another couple of weeks. I'm looking for impact on those transfers quite quickly. But I think how you judge it, how do you judge it? If you have a player who's playing Saturday, you buy a player who's playing on a Sunday, and then you sell that same player, chain it on to someone else on the Monday, and you captain that player on the Sunday, like, what do you want? One game. Bearing in mind it's going to take an extra transfer off you. Is it 15? i.e., you know, or 7 times 2 is 14? Is it 10 times 2 is 20? In that sort of circumstance, arguably even more. Probably want sort of like 12 times 2 maybe. So I wouldn't get set in terms of judging everything specifically in exactly the same way.
This reply. Questions annoyed me again, but also happy and annoyed. Just giving context to the swings in this game, James. By the time I get to the end of this tweet, you'll know who sent it.
How will I know?
You will know. I missed Foden's first hat-trick. I missed the first couple of games of Saka's good run. I missed Bowen's hat-trick. I gambled and didn't captain Palmer when he scored 4. I still finished 3rd. Simon Ingram. Fact is, we will always make mistakes until next year. Do you know what? There's the part of me that's 5% that's like jealous. You bastard. How did you manage to do that and still finish 3rd? Yet, it's such a good point. You will not get every transfer and every decision right and every captaincy in this game. And if you beat yourself up about every single one, you'll lose context of the bigger picture. To be able to make all of those mistakes and still finish 3rd is great. And I think that's the real interesting learning is put it on, move on. What's happened in the past doesn't affect the future. Right? You captain Haaland because he scored 4. I mean, he's going to score 4
I'm
next
sure
week, right?
Even Will,
who's
won it, has not made the right decision every
He'll have
single
missed
time.
Plenty. We're talking about 150 single game day, not single game days, individual days over the season, maybe.
What did Palmer score that night against Everton?
No idea. Plenty. 25,
28 or something.
28, maybe.
It was high anyway. I know that. I'll have a quick look. If you've missed it, then that obviously makes it 29. Yeah. So if you've only just owned him, if you didn't own him at all that night, 58 points against the majority of other people. That's massive, isn't it?
Huge.
But it's the 29-point loss there has been obviously made up and more somewhere else, and that's worth remembering. Because you didn't go that way, was that because you got Pickford in, you punted the Everton clean sheet that night, and then Everton went on a run of clean sheets after that, didn't they?
Balanced it
sometimes
out.
There's a bigger
you
picture.
never know. Ian, would you prefer Leeds or Southampton to go up with any players in mind for next season? Personally, I'd prefer Leeds with the likes of Somerville. I'm not really too... I mean, Leeds have got some players that we remember from when they were in the Premier League still doing okay. I mean, personally, I'd prefer to see Southampton come up for the simple reason that my boy Flynn Downs is there and I want to see him do well. And I like him. He seems a really nice, likeable kid. We got a Southampton fan in the office and I was chatting to him yesterday, James, about the playoff final. And he said that Flynn had a good season. They've been playing well. Southampton have got a good chance. Quite 50-50 with the bookies because it is a one-off game now. I'd like to see Saints come up, but for one very simple reason, and that's because Flynn Downs on loan there. That's it.
I think for Sky, Southampton assets would probably be more interesting. I think there's more players like you mentioned, Somervilles and your Routers and stuff like that, who might be more punty from a captaincy perspective. But I think for consistency, Southampton assets might show quite well. I'm pretty sure average possession is more than Leicester this year. So there'll be some interesting ones in Southampton. They really do keep the ball quite well.
Okay. Liam Austin says, a player from each position who you both think will be one to keep an eye on next season. Thank you both for the enjoyable pods this season on the Sky coverage front. Helped me to a personal best of 1,287th. Well done. Anybody gets PB? Well done.
Go on then, give us a goalkeeper.
To keep an eye out for next year. Are we trying not to be obvious here? Like Raya or Pickford?
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. Each position. Keeper, go on, go.
Onana.
Okay, why?
I mean, he was up there as one of the highest point scorers up until 3/4 of the way through the season this year. If Manchester United and Dan Ashworth don't realise that they need some centre-backs, then they need their heads examining.
Keeping them fit would be helpful.
They need their head exam. But yeah, but regardless,
they might also realise they want a different manager maybe as well.
Sure. If Manchester United are going into the transfer market, they need to buy defenders. And so I'm hoping that if they buy a couple of decent centre-backs or can find some good defenders, then maybe some clean sheets in there for Onana. On top of, he was already one of the highest point scorers for 3/4 of the season without actually doing very well. So maybe Onana.
Okay.
Maybe
I'll
Onana.
give you two names. There's only 4 players who've outscored Onana since that March international break. Admittedly, he's had more fixtures. Pickford has been the highest scoring.
Yep.
Then David Raya.
Yep.
Dean Henderson's had a good run. Here's a surprising name for you, Mark Flecken at Brentford. 51 points since the March international break. That's one maybe. Second season might do better. And I'll give you another name. Aaron Ramsdale.
Where's he going?
Don't know.
That's the biggest question. Where's he going?
Newcastle has been linked a lot, which I know a lot of people think.
He's going to Germany first.
A lot
for
of
a
people
cheeky
think
little
that
Euros.
doesn't make sense because they're like, well, why would he go to Newcastle? Be back up. I don't think he would be. I think he'd be their number one if he goes there.
You think Pope would move on?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We don't know how Pope's going to have recovered from this injury, right?
Very true.
Go on, defenders, go on.
One to watch next year. I'm going to say Munoz based on the back end of
I like
last
that. It's a
year.
shout.
I think probably Munoz. I think he'll do okay.
Yeah, I'll throw another one in that's worth keeping an eye on, particularly maybe if he was in the Euros tournament. Is Jarrell Quansah has obviously played a lot, and we've completely overlooked that. I think rightly that we've overlooked that, generally speaking. He's been, 7 million? He's obviously not going to be that, but he's also not going to jump to your 10s and stuff like that.
Yep.
He'll come in at a reasonable price if Arne Slot fancies him and he's going to be first choice. I think that's one to keep an eye on.
Yep. Emerson. If we switch to a back three, he got 4 attacking returns, missed large chunks of the season. I think he could be an interesting one if he's below 7 million as well. Midfielders. I mean, are we going to say João Gomez? Probably not.
Yeah, I like that as a shout.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too obvious a shout. Got to find something better than that. Something a little bit more differential.
Well, if he gets a bit of a price jump, which the data suggests he probably should, I think it will still be one such.
Yeah, okay.
If João Gomez is 7.5, how many of us are going now? That's probably all it needs to be.
You think a lot will?
It depends on the pricing of other players, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think if at the end of the day, if João Gomez is 7.5 and just hypothetically Paulinho was 6.6, who obviously won't be, we wouldn't be going there, would we?
No.
There's no point. If he's 7.5 and Paulinho and others in that range are going to be more, and it looks like a real struggle to find the right enablers. I mean, think back sort of like September time. I think a lot of us were thinking like Ibasuma was going to be a cheat code in that position at 7.3, right? He didn't materialise for various reasons. So I don't think João Gomez doesn't need to jump much to not be of interest to the majority, actually. If João Gomez is 7.5, it's not going to be in everybody's team next year.
No.
So it doesn't need much of a jump. So I think, yes, that is a good differential. Also, because of Palmer, most of us haven't been looking at tackle tiers this year, and it might come back around that we need to, and that's been shown to be consistent. He's a young player. He'll get more minutes next year. He might even get a move. It's not impossible, although I think Wolves have said that he particularly will stay. I mentioned Johan Wissa as an interesting alternative to one to Bumo, i.e. particularly if Ivan Toney moves on. I think Keane Lewis Potter could also be an interesting one. I do think Brentford will also buy in that particular area. There's lots of speculation about Morgan Gibbs-White.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes to a team that's going to see more of the ball, his chance creation is really good. I don't suppose he'll get much of a price hike, even if he moves on. The Palace guys are certainly well worth watching. I think Casado as well. Is that
I think Declan Rice I'm going to chuck out there because he was 8-1 this year. I don't think he'll go up much.
Rice is in the position he's playing at the moment is less interesting.
I don't think he'll go up much though.
No.
So if you look at his attacking returns, 7 goals, 8 assists. Rodri was 8 goals, 10 assists, so a little bit more.
But Rodri is the guaranteed of the pass in every game.
And all the tiers, Rice is there or thereabouts, apart from tier 2 passing, where Rodri got 31, Rice got 7.
Astonishing.
31 times tier 2 passing.
We just remember that he's missed games there through ban and injury as well.
But the thing is, he'll go up to 10.5. I think Rice will stay at 8. Then you got to weigh up the differential.
I think Rodri could well be up to as high as 11.
Yeah, and then you got a 3 million difference where it's missing. Because I think the Arsenal defenders will go up.
But then if you look at Rice, like what tiering has he hit against Everton at the weekend?
I have no idea.
Like nothing. So if he's not hitting it against a side like Everton,
That's because he's playing as an 8 rather than a 6.
Yeah,
At a 6, he's got more point scoring.
Yeah, it becomes less interesting in that position.
Striker.
Difficult to more pick out differential ones, but I think Nkunku, as I'd mentioned, has barely seen minutes. Richarlison, if he's going to stay as Tottenham's number 9, if Tottenham don't invest in that area, Kai Havertz will get reclassification.
Yep.
Quite how big the jump in price will be, I don't suppose it will be that much. The others like Watkins Isak is going to get a price rise. Really interesting to see what happens across all formats with Mateta if he stays, because that form is a joke.
I think he'll get a rise, but I don't think they'll go crazy high.
No, I don't know how you could.
Nah.
Still, Crystal Palace is number 9 at the end of the day. I don't think it's going to jump that much. And as we'd said on Tuesday's pod, like the shot conversion is off the scale, unsustainable at the moment.
But the reality is as well, should they lose Eze or Elise or both, we're not going to be talking about Mateta because his supply lines are going to get dried up quite a bit.
I think a lot of us will probably have Dominic Solanke regrets across this season, because at 7.8, that could have just sat there the majority of the season. I don't think I owned him at any point. I don't think, Suj.
I did.
And that would have been a really good one just to sit there quite often. He may get a move. But the chances are the forward is probably someone we don't know yet. There's going to be a few clubs looking to buy 9s this summer. And I think there'll be a few additions to the league. Someone like Victor Gyökeres, if he joins the league, won't get priced that highly and will probably do quite well irrespective of where he goes.
FPL Bowen says, what were either of your worst transfers this season, and what moments felt like defining moments looking back, like a big single game day haul? Bowen on the Monday night for sure. Missing Haaland for the 4 goals was killer for me.
God, that's really on the spot. The Haaland 4 I had. I feel like I didn't have the Bowen hat trick. I had the Foden.
You did?
I don't think I did. I had it in FPL.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think I had him in Sky.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you had him in Sky. You're right. You had him in FPL. You did get the points in something, I'm sure.
Yeah, I had him in FPL. I didn't have him in Sky. The Foden hat trick against Brentford before was a very handy one. Most people weren't on at that moment. And actually, ironically, I've ended up going Foden a few times over Rodri this year, and I wouldn't say it's backfired, actually, because he's obviously returned very well as well. Yeah,
there's like 2 points between them overall or something over the season.
Going Porro over Romero a few weeks ago feels like a mistake I didn't need to... I gambled that. It was a decision to take the gamble and go with the upside, which, look, Pedro scored in 2 of the last 3. It's not been terrible, but Romero's consistency... really, really good. I think for defenders, I think he's 3rd for bonus points across the season. Christian Romero, you know what you're getting now. And Tottenham's possession numbers, I imagine, will only go up again next year.
Yep. Last question of the show, Colin Johnston. He says, thanks for a great season of Sky content. His best finish as well. He was in the top 50 for the last 3 months. And he noticed you really need to gamble to get higher because it's hard to make gains up there. And getting on Isak early was one he missed, and maybe Mateta too. Well, definitely, obviously Mateta. So do you think when you're up there at that level, you really do need to gamble to really go for it? Otherwise, it's hard to make ground.
It's necessarily even at that level, because last year I was at like 2K and I just couldn't move.
Like me this year, I was
just to say, I just couldn't move.
Yeah,
just feel like 1,800 on 2,200. Just felt like that. Just felt like I couldn't move. It probably wasn't hitting the scores in the same way last year, or perhaps last year it was even worse because of Haaland kind of taking away so many captain days, for example, whereas there have certainly been cases you could go against this year. So I don't think that's just limited just to the top end. But you've got to remember, right, it's risk and reward. Sure, you hit it, great.
Which are your battles?
Simon Ingram's give the example of Cole Palmer, right, and not caps him that Monday night, right? So Simon, I don't think would have won it if he'd captained Cole Palmer that night, but it would have put him way more in contention if he had, right? So, yeah, you can't look at it as just going with the differential. You could go differentials every week and you miss that Haaland haul against Wolves or Palmer haul against Everton, and all the work you've made to build up, it's gone.
Yep.
So it's about picking your battles is what I would say.
Cool. That's it. That's a wrap for this episode of Planet Sky FF. Of course, content is going to come thick and fast throughout the summer. We've got Euros content on the way. We've got a bunch of pods reviewing the end of the season. We've got COTC coming up for the FA Cup final, and so on and so on. If you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/planetfpl. If you sign up now, you'll get July for free because we won't be billing in July and all of the content will be available to everybody. Why not head over and think about doing that?
Super. Don't forget charity game on Sunday as well.
Game week 39. Make sure that you head over to Twitter, find the website, donate, buy tickets, come and see us at the Hawthorns if you are in and around the area or want to make the journey up to come and support Team South. because we are supporting Team South.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of us might even be
We're
managing
trying to
Team
raise
South.
money for Street Child United, which is a very
Yes.
worthy cause, and that's what we're doing it for. So, yes.
We will be back for season 6 of Sky Fantasy in July,
Due course.
probably when
In
game
due
opens
course.
at some point. But we look forward to it as we always
Lovely,
do.
lovely. Stay safe. Well done on all your great finishes, as much as we joke and jest. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
And unlucky with the shit ones. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please. Man child.